Celtic kicked off their Europa League campaign with a gritty 1-1 draw away to Red Star. And while a point on the road in Europe is never something to sneer at, the overriding feeling in the hours after the final whistle is one of mild frustration. Not because Celtic were clearly the better team or dominant for 90 minutes. Far from it. But because in the moments where the game was there to be taken, when the door cracked open just enough, they didn't quite have the sharpness, the calmness, or the clinical edge to walk through it. And in European football, those little details separate a decent result from a great one. Going into the match, there was this growing narrative that Celtic and Red Star were almost mirror images of each other in terms of domestic dominance and European shortcomings. Both clubs used to being on top of their respective leagues, both struggling to make a consistent impact on the continental stage, and both arriving at this fixture with plenty to prove. So in that sense, the draw almost felt inevitable. But for Celtic, this wasn't just a routine point. It was a performance that offered glimpses of real potential, as well as reminders of the old problems that keep showing up every time they leave the safety of Celtic Park. The starting lineup offered few surprises. 2 changes, one in goal, the other in attack, with Daizen Maeda returning to the starting 11. On paper, it made sense. Maeda is known for his pressing, his work ethic, and his defensive contribution, which can be crucial in tough away matches. But on the pitch, it quickly became clear that this wasn't going to be his night. His positioning was poor, constantly caught offside, not just marginally, but a full yard or two, and often when the ball wasn't even near him. It felt lazy, or at the very least, unfocused. For a player with his pace, there's no reason to be gambling on the offside line like that. You don't need to play on the edge when you can beat most defenders in a foot race. But beyond the offsides, it was his overall contribution that raised eyebrows. He failed to hold up play, didn't link well with the midfield, and looked completely out of sync with the tempo of the game. Brendan Rodgers didn't throw him under the bus post-match, but his comments were pointed, saying that the team needed someone who could hold the ball up in central areas, and Maeda simply didn't offer that. Rodgers even admitted he considered making multiple halftime changes, and it wouldn't have been a surprise if Maeda had been among them. The first half, in general, was messy, disjointed in possession, careless at the back, and oddly passive in midfield. Rio Hatate looked off the pace, sloppy in his passing, and offered little protection defensively. Even Callum McGregor, usually so reliable, got caught out a couple of times, playing poor passes under pressure. Young was anonymous on the right, and as a unit, Celtic just couldn't find any rhythm. There were pockets of decent play, but nothing sustained. Meanwhile, Red Star created multiple chances, none of them finished, but they were enough to keep the nerves rattling. The hosts hit the bar, threatened on the break, and forced Joe Hart into some uncomfortable moments. Celtic were fortunate to go into the break level, but the second half brought a shift, and it started with the change up top. Iheanacho came on and immediately offered something Maeda couldn't, a focal point. A player capable of taking the ball in tight spaces, shielding it, and bringing others into play. It gave Celtic a platform to build on, and suddenly the team looked more balanced. The midfield started to find space, the fullbacks pushed forward with more intent, and Red Star were forced to retreat. And then came the goal, a moment of quality that had been missing all night. Negrin, who had been up and down throughout the game, delivered when it mattered. He got his head up, picked out Iheanacho, and the finish was pure class. Calm, composed, clinical, the kind of goal you associate with the top level. It was a finish that reminded you of Kyogo at his best, or even a flash of the old Odsonne Edouard. A real striker's goal. And for Iheanacho, it was the kind of moment that can kickstart a career at a new club. He hasn't done anything spectacular yet, but in that moment, he showed the difference a real center forward can make at this level. But as is so often the case with Celtic in Europe, the joy was short-lived. A lapse in concentration at the back, a cheap turnover in midfield, and suddenly the ball was in the back of their own net. It was avoidable, frustrating, and totally on brand. Celtic are a team that can play beautiful football in spells, but their Achilles heel remains the same: defensive lapses, usually at the worst possible times. And when those mistakes come, they're almost always punished. That's the reality in Europe. From there, the game opened up. Both sides had chances. Celtic looked the more dangerous for a stretch, particularly with Tierney bombing down the left and Donovan continuing to impress on the right. Tierney had moments where he looked like the player who lit up Europe years ago, driving forward, cutting back, offering overlaps that Red Star couldn't contain. Donovan, still just 19, showed maturity well beyond his years. Confident on the ball, aggressive in the tackle, and not afraid to take risks going forward. His performance didn't just earn plaudits. It might have earned him the starting spot until Alistair Johnston returns. He's got that raw mix of energy, personality, and fearlessness that Celtic fans love, and Rodgers clearly sees something in him. But again, as Celtic pushed for a winner, they were nearly undone. Red Star had chances laid on. Real, clear chances, and on another night, they'd take them. That's why, for all the what-ifs and missed opportunities, the point still holds value. It's a tough place to play, against a team that hadn't dropped a single point at home all season, and Celtic stood toe-to-toe with them. Could they have won? Absolutely. But they also could have lost. And maybe that's where this team is right now, on the cusp. Capable of competing, but not yet ruthless enough to consistently win these types of matches. There's quality in the squad. You can see it in flashes, Tierney's surges, Iannicho's movement, Donovan's tenacity. But there are also questions. Is Hatate still the right fit in this midfield three? Can Negrin offer more consistency? Where is the cutting edge in front of goal when Kyogo's not firing? And what happens if Iannicho picks up a knock, considering the lack of trusted depth behind him? For now, though, the focus turns quickly. The schedule is relentless. Another European fixture already on the horizon, Braga at home. And in between, a domestic test against Hibs. Rodgers will likely rotate, especially after the physical toll of this match. But the message is clear. If Celtic want to go deep in Europe, these are the games they need to start turning into wins. Because sooner or later, good performances without victories stop being good enough. One of the biggest talking points from the match, and probably one that will continue to stir debate in the coming weeks, is the situation with Daizen Maeda. His performance in Belgrade wasn't just below par, it was a real concern. The kind of off night that leads fans to wonder if there's more going on behind the scenes. And that's not paranoia, that's context. We're talking about a player who, just weeks ago, openly admitted while on international duty that he wanted to leave Celtic. A player whose return to Glasgow seemed unlikely, whose locker had reportedly been cleared out, and whose teammates were under the impression he was gone for good. That doesn't just go away. And whether it's a conscious or subconscious thing, it's hard to shake the feeling that his head might still be elsewhere. What we saw against Red Star wasn't the Daizen Maeda who runs through brick walls, who presses like a man possessed, who gives defenders nightmares with his constant movement. It was a shadow of that player, aimless, detached, and lacking the urgency that defined his game last season. When a guy like Brendan Rodgers publicly points out your shortcomings after a European game, you know it wasn't just a bad half. It was a statement performance for all the wrong reasons. Of course, Maeda isn't the type to throw in the towel, but the optics of it, especially given his previous comments and the failed transfer, don't do him any favors. And it wasn't just Maeda who struggled. Young, once again, failed to take his opportunity. Celtic's lack of a true right winger has been a theme all season, and Yang's performances are doing little to solve the problem. Drifting in and out of the game, offering very little in terms of end product, and failing to link effectively with the fullbacks. It's a void that Brendan needs to address, either by giving someone like Maeda a run on that side, or by dipping into the market in January. Because at the moment, every time the ball shifts to that flank, it feels like the attack loses all momentum. In midfield, things weren't much better. Rio Hatate had perhaps his worst outing of the season. Sloppy in possession, lacking sharpness, and at times completely unaware of what was going on around him. It was the kind of performance that usually ends at halftime, and many were surprised to see him come out for the second half. Brendan hinted post-match that multiple players could have been hooked at the break, and Hatate was surely one of them. It's frustrating because everyone knows what he's capable of. On his day, he's a dynamic, forward-thinking midfielder who can dictate the tempo. But when he's off it, as he was in Belgrade, it puts an enormous amount of pressure on McGregor and Negrin to pick up the slack. Speaking of Negrin, his performance was a mixed bag. He did provide the assist for Iannicho's goal, and it was a brilliant piece of play, getting his head up and picking out the striker in a dangerous area. That moment was a glimpse of what he can offer. But outside of that, he was inconsistent. There were times when he drifted in and out of the game, failed to make quick decisions in midfield, and was physically outmuscled. He had a massive chance early in the second half, arriving on the edge of the box with all the time in the world, and he scuffed it. That's not just a missed opportunity. That's a moment that can define a European night. And when you think about the other chances that went begging, especially in games like Alashkert or Zagreb in the past, you start to see a pattern. Celtic create away from home, but they don't punish. And in Europe, that catches up with you. Then there's Ari Engels, a name fans have been crying out for in recent weeks, wanting him to get more minutes, to break into the midfield three and offer something different. But when he came on late in the game, he was anonymous. Not just ineffective, actively poor. There was one moment where he had a simple pass to play down the left and completely underhit it. A few seconds later, he lost a 50-50 in the middle of the park without much of a fight. These are the kinds of cameos that leave you further down the pecking order, not closer to the starting 11. It's a shame, because his talent is there, but talent without application means nothing in this Celtic midfield. If you're going to force your way in ahead of the likes of Hatate or Negrin, you need to make an impact in these moments. And he simply didn't. Contrast that with someone like Kobe Donovan, who once again delivered a performance far beyond his years. At 19, playing in one of the most intimidating stadiums in Europe, he looked calm, aggressive, and totally unfazed. He defends with tenacity, he attacks with intelligence, and most impressively, he takes risks. When he receives the ball, he's looking to move it forward, not just recycle possession. Rodgers praised his attitude post-match, saying he trains the way he plays, with intensity, with fearlessness, and with purpose. It's early days, of course, but if he keeps this up, he could go on to follow a path similar to that of Kieran Tierney, a young academy graduate stepping up on the big stage and making himself undroppable. And while we're on fullbacks, Kieran Tierney himself showed flashes of what Celtic fans have missed. Driving down the left, overlapping, cutting back inside. He looked sharp. There was one moment in the first half where he probably should have picked out Negrin for a tap-in, and another in the second where he made the assist that should have resulted in a goal. It wasn't a perfect performance, but it was promising. With more game time, he's only going to get better. And alongside Liam Scales, who was solid defensively, and Carter Vickers, who continues to be a rock at the back, there are signs that Celtic's defensive unit is starting to settle. But even so, the goal they conceded was soft, far too easy for Red Star to move through midfield and punish a lapse in focus. Up front, Iannicho is now starting to look like the solution to a problem Celtic have been struggling with all season. A striker who can hold up the ball, link the play, and, crucially, finish. His goal wasn't just technically sound, it was confident. He knew what he wanted to do before the ball even arrived. That kind of calmness under pressure is exactly what Celtic have lacked when Kyogo's off the boil. And the best part is, there's still room for growth. He's not even at full fitness, hasn't fully settled into the system, and yet he's already showing signs that he can be a real asset. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. Whispers are beginning to ripple through the streets of Glasgow, and if the chatter is to be believed, Celtic may have just pulled off the first real shock of the season. Word is filtering out that Brendan Rodgers has landed his newest striker, and he comes from the heart of Romania, the powerful forward Munteanu. While nothing has yet been carved in stone, the rumors have picked up such pace that supporters are already buzzing about a potential new matador in green and white hoops. The suggestion is that Celtic have been quietly working behind the scenes, pushing to secure the deal before rivals could catch scent of the opportunity. Rodgers has made no secret of his desire for a ruthless presence up front, someone who can finish chances with the cold precision the club has sometimes lacked in high-pressure European nights. If the Romanian does indeed arrive, it would be seen as a statement of intent. Celtic not merely content to dominate domestically, but gearing up for the bigger stages beyond Scotland. Reports describe Munteanu as a forward with the sharp instincts of a poacher and the physicality to trouble any backline. Some close to the player say he has long admired British football and views Celtic Park as the perfect arena to showcase his hunger. Already, comparisons are being made with past heroes who lit up Parkhead with their goals, though others urge patience. reminding the faithful that every striker must prove himself under the weight of the club's expectations. For Rodgers, the timing could not be better. With the squad needing an extra spark and supporters eager for fresh energy, the mere possibility of Munteanu's arrival has lifted the mood. No official unveiling has taken place, but the rumor alone has stirred pubs and terraces alike. The coming days may confirm the truth behind the whispers. But for now, the story of a Romanian matador bound for Glasgow is spreading fast, and the city waits to see if this noise will turn into thunder. Hello, fan. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.